Hello and thanks for joining us for our late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. We start in Singapore, where Japan has agreed that it will never send its self-defence forces to the Korean peninsula unless South Korea gives its prior consent. The pledge was made during talks between South Korean Defence Minister Min-koo and his Japanese counterpart Nakatani on the sidelines of the Asia Security Summit, also known as the Shangri-La Dialogue, which is taking place in Singapore. The two countries have agreed to discuss the agreement in detail through working-level talks in the coming weeks. Prior to this agreement, there had been some concern that Japanese troops could be deployed to Korea in emergency situations under the new U.S. Japan defense guidelines. Now, Han and Nakatani also held talks on Saturday with their American counterpart Ashton Carter. The three sides vowed to work together even closer to deter growing North Korean nuclear and missile threats. And U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter has apologized for the recent wrongful shipment of a live anthrax sample to an American airbase here in Korea. Speaking in Singapore on Saturday, Carter also vowed to take proper actions to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. The Pentagon has admitted that live anthrax may have been shipped also to a lab in Australia back in 2008. Now, the details of the Australian case are rather sketchy, but in light of the embarrassing revelations, the US military has ordered a sweeping review of practices meant to inactivate the deadly bacteria. The US Defense Department continues to insist there is no known risk to the general public and health risks due to exposure were very low. US Senator John McCain has called on South Korea and the United States to seriously consider deploying an advanced US missile defense system to the Korean peninsula to counter the growing nuclear and missile threat posed by North Korea. Speaking at a press conference on Saturday on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, McCain said that, in light of Pyongyang's recent advancements in missile technology, the THAAD system is an effective and excellent deterrent. However, McCain, who also serves as the US Senate Armed Services Committee chairman, stressed there's still a way to go before any decision on the issue can be made. McCain is just the latest in a series of high-profile American political and military leaders who have been promoting the merits of deploying THAAD, or as it's otherwise known, Terminal High-Altitude Area Defense, to South Korea. Now, it has emerged that the United States tried but failed to sabotage North Korea's nuclear program with the Stuxnet computer virus around 5 years ago. People familiar with the covert operation have told Reuters the digital weapon developed and deployed by the US and Israel to knock out Iranian nuclear centrifuges in 2009 and 2010 had a sister piece of malware that was designed to bring down Pyongyang's program as well. Citing the unnamed sources, Reuters reports the virus was designed to activate once it came across Korean language settings on affected machines, but the plans crumbled when the agents could not access the computers running the North's nuclear weapons program. The source said North Korea's wall of secrecy and the extreme isolation of its communication systems made the core systems impossible to locate. The US National Security Agency, which is claimed to have run the campaign, has declined to comment on the story. Turning now to the health scare that has Korea on edge. The nation's health ministry says the number of confirmed cases of Middle East respiratory syndrome in Korea has now risen to 13. And a climate of fear is being stoked by rather outlandish claims about the extent and seriousness of the problem, as our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Don't have meals at restaurants or brush your teeth outside your house. These are some of the wild claims about avoiding MERS that have been circulating online and through SNS. Such messages, however far-fetched, are fueling public concern as a number of confirmed MERS cases in Korea keeps creeping up. It now stands at 13, with the latest patient being the husband of the 12th patient who contracted the virus. In response, the health ministry says it will seek heavy punishment against people spreading false information, stressing it could escalate fears to an unnecessarily high level.
There's a lot of unproven information floating around about the MERS virus, its infection route and preventative measures, but most couldn't be further from the truth.
To prevent further transmission, it's advised that those suspected of contracting the virus promptly alert health authorities or go to a local hospital for a checkup.
Fear is the biggest enemy. Those showing signs of severe respiratory symptoms, such as coughing and high fever, should not be afraid to receive treatment.
Meanwhile, Chinese health authorities have reportedly decided to quarantine more than 55 people who have been in contact with a confirmed Korean patient who flew to China earlier this week. Reports out of China say the patient is suffering from a very high fever and pneumonia. Kim Jeong, Arirang News.
Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the past week or so, you will have heard about the corruption scandal involving the world governing body of football. But the crisis was not enough to stop Sepp Blatter from being re-elected for a fifth term as FIFA president. Following a week that has seen 7 FIFA officials arrested in Switzerland and 18 people connected to football indicted on corruption, bribery and racketeering charges by the U.S. Justice Department, Blatter saw off the challenge from Prince Ali bin Al Hussein of Jordan. Now, speaking at a press conference in Zurich on Saturday, Blatter defended his right to still lead FIFA and told reporters the storm over the scandal hasn't reached hurricane strength. Yet, at least. Meanwhile, a U.S. Internal Revenue official has told the New York Times that he's fairly confident there will be another round of indictments in the ongoing probe into corruption at FIFA. After more than 3 decades, the U.S. government has decided to drop Cuba from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. In a statement, the U.S. State Department said that while Washington has significant concerns and disagreements with a wide range of Cuba's policies and actions, the U.S. feels it is no longer justified in keeping Cuba on the list. Watchers say the move signals the biggest step yet towards the normalization of ties between the two countries and the potential opening of embassies in Washington and Havana. Now, Cuba's removal means only Iran, Syria and Sudan remain on the US's state sponsor of terrorism list. North Korea was removed in 2008 by then President George W. Bush, but there have been growing calls within the US to have the regime relisted. The Italian Coast Guard says it has rescued more than 3,300 migrants sailing across the Mediterranean Sea. Officials say SOS calls were made from 17 boats on Friday, and a number of rescue operations are ongoing as we speak. Now, despite the thousands of lives saved, the Italian Navy says 17 bodies were found on 3 vessels, but then not quite sure how they died. The operations were led by the Italian Coast Guard and included the help of Italian, German and Irish naval ships under the control of the European Union's Frontex border agency. Now, nearly 130 years ago today, a king of the Joseon dynasty lit up his palace with electric lights for the very first time. And this week, the Heritage Agency discovered the exact location of the electric plant, Korea's first, that provided that power. Our Park Se-young reports.
This is the site of Korea's first power plant in operation 128 years ago, but it's not where archaeologists expected to find it. Archival records point to Gyeonggung, the king's quarters inside Gyeongbokgung Palace, where a marker indicates the birthplace of electricity in Korea. But after a year-long excavation, the National Research Institute of Cultural Heritage found that it's actually located south of Hwangwonji Lake, also on palace grounds.
If the plant was located near the marker, it would have generated a lot of noise for the king. The newly discovered location is further south, which means less noise would have made it to the residents.
King Gojong of the Joseon dynasty brought electricity to the palace in the late 19th century. After 11 envoys to the United States brought word of a new technology, he signed a contract with the Edison Illuminating Company in 1884. Korea's first power plant was completed in 3 years and lit up a series of street lamps and the king's chambers. The system was unstable in the early days and the lights would lose power frequently. Experts say the plant is a symbol of King Gojong's strong will to actively and at times prematurely incorporate Western culture. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, some 1,500 students from 95 countries and diplomatic delegations from 34 nations are in Korea's southeastern city of Gyeongju to participate in the Silk Road International Student Festival. The organisers say the festival, which kicked off on Saturday, is a chance to promote unity through the sharing of different cultures. Scores of performances are being held, including a traditional fashion show and a multicultural cooking competition. International students taking part are camping at a local park during the festival period. The two-day festival is a promotional event ahead of the Gyeongju World Culture Expo that will open in August. Now, finally, leaving you with the weekend weather. And as you will have noticed, if you are watching us in Korea at least, the searing heat wave was replaced today with much cooler temperatures and a band of rain that swept across most of the central region this afternoon. But the good news is that if you have plans outside on Sunday, we do have a dry day in store with daytime highs in the high 20s to low 30s nationwide. And we'll see similar sunny and very warm weather for the entirety of next week as well. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news, and do download our smartphone application. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.